Wimpod on the left, Remoraid on the right, and... Did you see you on the flip, Joe?
Yeah, I think Nico Alabas drew for his turn, it looked like, and he's just going to be assessing his options. We can see the prize cards here already. There is one of the the Garbotox and Garbodor in his prize cards. He does play 2 copies, fortunately for him, though, so that's not going to be too painful. It looks like both players are going to have decent starts. Nico leading with his Wimpod. Such a fantastic lead in this deck because it has the Wimp Out ability, which, although typically Wimpod has the retreat cost of 3, because you have this ability on the very first turn of the game, you can move to the bench if you wish. So very, very useful ability on the first turn. It's going to allow Nico to get his optimal setup here.
It is, but with that Ultra Ball, he discarded his ability lock Garbodor, and the other one is in his prizes.
Yeah.
So now that has turned from a prize which doesn't really matter into a huge prize between Octillery, Gardevoir, Gallade. Clifton Go's deck here is very reliant on abilities. Not being able to block abilities could be a big deal, but Joe, you seem excited by the Celesteela.
I'm excited because I can see a Rainbow Energy attachment and a Choice Band. Nico, he's seen a Remoraid and he's like, that's enough. That's probably a Gardevoir GX deck. There are very few other archetypes currently running Octillery, so he's safe in the knowledge to say, you know what? Yeah, this is going to be pretty good in this spot. I may as well establish this while I can, playing the N. And what's so great about the Celesteela is it has 200 HP, which is already like a mammoth to deal with. When you put the Rainbow Energy on, it goes down to 190, so it's still so far out of range for a Gardevoir GX to take a knockout. They require so many energies, and being able to sit there on the bench as it is right now, it's enough of a threat just at this very moment. At any point, this could come into the active and start dealing one-hit knockouts on even Clifton's most difficult to knock out Pokemon, which is typically the Gardevoir GX. So it's enough of a threat throughout the game now, and it's something that Clifton has to deal with, even though it's just 1 energy attached to a benched Pokemon.
But even as early as next turn, Nico could be taking little prizes on Remoraids, on routes, etc. And let's not forget that Nico does play 4-Ace Roller, as most of these Golisopod decks tend to do, which means that if Clifton is not able to get a 1-hit KO, okay, it will take 2 turns to reset the energy, but Nico could potentially use Ace Roller, roll with a Golisopod or something like that in the short term, and then bring up the Celesteela later on in the game to take out the big Pokemon like Gardevoir, because of course what you don't want is getting a couple little KOs and then not having an answer to the 230 HP Gardevoir.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to see Clifton. He's going for his typical turn 1 play, which is going to be going for an Ultra Ball, finding that Tapu Lele, as we've seen so often already today. We're going to see the Wonder Tag to find a Bridget, and then he's going to go ahead and grab himself 2 Rolts as well as an Eevee. He did discard a Sylveon with his Ultra Ball, but he is playing the 2-2 line. So we are going to see the Energy Evolution this turn, and there's going to be the Sylveon GX coming out into play thanks to the Energy Evolution ability. Let's see if he can retreat this Remoraid this turn. I didn't see any Floatstone in hand. That would be amazing if he could get that going. It looks like he's got to be content to pass here. He just has to put down the Rolts and simply pass it over to Nico here. Let's see if he can get some early first impressions going.
That's going to be the goal, and I don't think you do attack with Celesteela this turn.
No.
I think what you really want to do is get the Golisopod, first impression, KO the Remoraid. That Celesteela can take early game KOs, but so can Golisopod. But Golisopod, even with the GX attack, even with a Choice Band, you are doing a maximum 180 damage. That is not going to KO a Gardevoir with 230 HP. Celesteela needs a double colourless. What was great about Nico going first this game, he didn't need an energy attachment. So he pops the rainbow on the Celesteela, and it's just sitting there. And at some point during the game, double colourless, in it comes, and this is perfect. I've played a lot of Golisopod Garbodor myself, and one of the most annoying things is, if your opponent doesn't play many items, Garbodor's not doing very much, it can really hurt. Well, that's not something you're worried about here.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, it is worth bringing up the Celesteela if you're taking 2 prizes off a Sylveon.
Sure, yeah, the Sylveon has the 2 retreat costs, so that is 120 damage with the Choice Band times by 2, thanks to the Fairy Weakness. And Celesteela getting in here, taking 2 prizes very early, seeing that Clifton really didn't have much going for him. It looks like he actually top-decked that Professor Sycamore, so he might be back into this game. Clifton trying to go for a 2-hit KO on the Celesteela because it is such a tanky Pokemon. We know that Nico does, in fact, have a Acerola in his hand, but Clifton really has to just try and start chipping away at this Celesteela. But again, for Nico, just 1 more Rainbow Energy attachment, and he can even go for a Blaster GX knockout.
And that would be quite good, 180 damage. And you get to turn all your prize cards face up, giving you more information, meaning you get to select what you take as your prizes. And Celesteela is a big threat.
We are going to see he's going to attach a Grass Energy, so he has the Moon Press attack available to him, which could deal 160 with the Choice Band, and that's what he's going to go for here. 160
No, he's going Blaster GX.
Blaster GX, my apologies. It's actually just one Metal Energy cost, so he can go for the Blaster GX. He's able to flip his prize cards before taking the 2 prizes, because of course it's an effective attack, so he can flip his prize cards, see exactly what he wants to take here, and super aggressive turns from Nico.
And I like it. I think this is very good. Now, one of the issues I have, and I found this a lot playing decks like Golisopod, if you take lots of early prizes, you still have lots of cards in your deck. So then your opponent drops an N, and you shuffle up your hand into your deck, you draw 2 cards. Sometimes then you're in this awkward position where you've got a very large deck, you're only drawing 2 cards, and you don't have enough outs, and you do draw very little for a while.
Yeah, that's very true. We are going to see Clifton, he's going to simply bench the Tapu Lele so that he can maybe draw into a double Colorless Energy and actually finally start dealing with the Celesteela. It's got so much work done already. We are going to see, before he opts to go for the end, he's going to use the Rescue Stretcher, putting 3 targets back into his deck, one of the Tapu Leles, as well as a 1/1 line of that Sylveon. Instead of shuffling, he knows he's going to go for the end this turn, so that's exactly what he opts to go for. And it's a huge mountain to climb from here. He's really going to hope that this N sticks on his side and makes it very difficult for Nico to start getting any more knockouts, because he's already taken 4 prize cards.
And this really is the turning point in the game as far as I'm concerned. If Nico draws something like a Professor Sycamore, he's just going to keep rolling and he's going to be fine. What did he... Oh, it's a Trubbish, and I missed a second. It's a Trubbish
and a Buzzwole?
It's a Pokemon. It's not great. There's no energy. There's no supporter. And if Clifton here can just get a Gardevoir going and start taking a couple of knockouts, he might end up in a much better position, but it doesn't look like he... Oh,
nope.
Not
no
the turn
energy.
he wanted.
Yeah, no energy for Clifton, so he couldn't simply go for an energy drive to finish off the Celesteela. Wow, that's a huge top deck. Nico is able to get himself a Professor Sycamore here, and he's going to keep getting more value. He's got himself Grass Energy, Rainbow Energy. He's still got the attack on the Celesteela this turn. He could even pay Retreat, you know, and keep the Celesteela as an option later on. It does have a huge 4 retreat cost, so that's probably unlikely. He'll just go for, you know, one of the Rocket Fall or Moon Press. Either of them is going to deal with this Ralts, and then he's just 1 prize away. You can see he's going for Ultra Ball, getting rid of 2 Ns. At this point, they're really not draw supporters for him anymore. He can thin 1 more card from his deck. He's going to go ahead and grab himself a Trash Lunch Garbodor. He does look like at this point he's just trying to thin as much as possible before simply taking his 5th prize, and he's really got himself in a very, very strong board state.
He's in a fantastically strong board state. And what the point is here, he's going to take a KO, he's going to get rid of the routes, 1 prize left. If he's got access to a Guzma next turn, he wins the game. Even if he doesn't.
Yeah, that's a scoop.
Yeah. Clifton has conceded the game, and I don't blame him.
No.
The one good thing for Clifton here, that game took like 8 minutes. We've still got 41.5 minutes. We might actually see a full best of 3 series. If you're going to lose game 1, time to win games 2 and 3, otherwise we'll see what we saw in the last round. Player wins game 1, other player wins game 2, run out of time, it's a tie. In a tournament this big, there is such a difference between 5-0 and 4-0-1.
Yeah, it's an absolutely huge difference, and what I love is Nico went so aggressively there. He spotted that, you know, this is a stage 2 deck. It is hugely reliant on the Sylveon GX in order to use Magical Ribbon. Really reliant on that to start getting set up. And it happened that Clifton didn't actually have any other draw options available to him. So the Celesteela was able to take a huge 4 prizes. It just has so much HP. That's such a difficult thing to deal with. And again, he's actually started with the Celesteela on his bench once again, Nico. So it's going to put in a huge shift once again in this matchup. And it's down to Clifton to find a way around this.
The one thing I will say here, going first was huge, because you go first, you get an energy on the Celesteela, you pass over to an evolution deck who doesn't really do anything, and you've gained that extra energy attachment, which he used so beautifully on the Celesteela. It's not quite that easy when you're going second, although he doesn't really have a turn 1 attack, so that is bad from Clifton.
Bad news for Clifton. He just simply has to pass on his first turn. Nico does have himself a Rainbow Energy. Looks like he doesn't have a Bridget. His only draw support is actually an N, so he may well not want to use that We are going to see the Rainbow Energy get attached to the Celesteela. He may simply just pass this turn if N is his only supporter card, because what else does he really want to establish other than potentially win pods? Yeah, he's just going to pass it over. It's going to be a slow start. He's got the Float Stone for maybe next turn. Then he can play the N, dig for energy cards. But for now, he doesn't need anything. But it's a huge draw from Clifton. He's got himself an Ultra Ball. Oh, he actually had 2, so he must have already had one. He's gone for a patient approach.
He has. Well, I think he had 2 or 3 rare candy in hand. It wasn't that he didn't have cards that he could play. It's that he didn't have cards that he could play without putting himself in an awkward late game position by just not having anything to do. It's all very well and good getting that turn 1 Tapu Lele, but if that's at the risk of having no rare candy, so you're really limiting your Gardevoir options in the mid to late game, sometimes players go, look, I don't want to pass the game here, but that is still better. Next turn I'll have one more card, one more thing that I can Ultra Ball, and there he goes. Now he's actually got, and he had a Sycamore as well, I believe.
Yeah, so rather than just having a bad hand, he went way more patient than we actually gave him credit for. So making sure he could get value from the rare candy and get into this Gardevoir from the Professor Sycamore. He's actually got effectively a Bridget as well, so he's done very well. I wonder if he actually has no Fair Energy. That would have been optimal, so he could have evolved into a Sylveon GX and started to get that magical ribbon going, but it looks like he had to be content, and Nico now does go for the N. So Clifton really did sort of psych him out there. He forced Nico to not use the N on the first turn because Nico thought he had nothing. All he did was pass, and then in turn 2, look at this eruption. He's now got a Gardevoir GX on board. His bench is full of Rolts. So it was really good, smart play from Clifton, as well as we have to remember these are 2 humans playing against each other. So facial expression, body language, these are all factors in here, and Clifton psyched out Nico there.
He did. What Clifton actually had, he had the Candy Gardevoir in hand and another 2 rare candies. So what he does is he goes, I'm going to wait a turn. Now I've got Candy Gardevoir, and as I know he had to get rid of 2 rare candies, and that's not great. But when you've got a Gardevoir on board, it's not that good. You can afford to take a patient approach, evolve up through Curlier. What I will say is, Nico can still start doing a lot of damage with the Celesteela, and he can be KOing Sylveon for 2 prizes in 1 hit, Gardevoir for 2 prizes in 1 hit. That Celesteela is still going to do a lot of work for Nico as we go forward in this game. So, although Clifton's got a good start, Nico's basically in this matchup crossing his fingers going, look, I just want to have a Celesteela when he starts to get rolling, and he's got that.
Yeah, he's also got a Field Blower just pre-Professor Sycamore. He's going to draw another 7 cards here. Finally getting himself into some Fair Energy is a big thing here. So he's got the Sylveon set up now thanks to the Energy Evolution. He can also go for some more evolutions, it looks like. And he's got Secret Spring available, and he's going to have a pretty crazy turn here.
He's actually got his 4th rare candy in hand, so he might be able to actually rare candy another Gardevoir at one point. And if he ends up with 3 Gardevoirs in the first few turns after having to discard 2 rare candy, that is very nice work.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And it looks like Nico just really doesn't have much going for him, so even these small additions like the Floatstone being Field Blower away, the Trubbish, it just makes it a little bit more awkward for Nico. It's an extra piece of the puzzle that he needs to assemble in order to start putting pressure back on Clifton. He does choose to attach a Choice Band to the Celesteela GX. The only issue is if he brings it in now when his board isn't that well set up, it may just allow the Gardevoir to come in with a few more Secret Springs, double Colorless Energy, maybe a Choice Band and respond to the Celesteela, and then Nico wouldn't be left with much.
And that is the thing that Gardevoir can do. Any deck, no matter how good it is against Gardevoir, even something like a Metagross, if you get enough energy on a Gardevoir fast enough, you will KO absolutely anything, and that is always the issue. Nico here really wants a Garbodor. He wants a Breakpoint Garbodor. He wants to turn off abilities. He wants that Garbotoxin. That's what he really needs here. So he will also need a Floatstone to get out the active. I mean, if he had the Garbodor Floatstone double colourless, this would be a phenomenal turn, but looking at his hand, I don't think he has it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. He is going to opt to find another Trubbish here, so maybe he's just going to simply pass and try and develop Garbotoxin next turn. He also has a Heavy Ball to boot. This maybe could grab him a Wimpod, which is exactly what he does go for, so trying to develop his board as much as possible for a potential response from Clifton. If he does have Garbodor Floatstone, that's going to be what he goes for, but it looks like it's another very slow turn for Nico.
Well, one of the issues here is that he has actually got his Ability Lock Garbodor in his hand, but his second Garbodor is in his prizes, and he's done a deck search. He should know this by now. So if he evolves the active and it then gets KO'd, we're in an awkward position because actually then he doesn't have it for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and he really actually does need to get some abilities online so that he can maybe get himself into some more supporter outs. If he puts ability lock on himself, he could be in huge trouble because he then limits maybe 6 or 7 outs of his own deck with Ultra Balls and Tapu Leles, which could help him get out of this bad hand that he's currently sat with. So over to Clifton now. He's going to be able to just start rampaging. We have a second Gardevoir into play. We see 2 Secret Springs setting up multiple Gardevoir GX. The Sylveon still chilling in the active position. We're going to see him go for the Wonder Tag, grabbing himself a Professor Sycamore here. I think he still has his attachment for turn available to him, so if he could find a double Colorless Energy, he could even start attacking with the Sylveon to take a prize and start really putting Nico on the back foot. Looks like he's still got a few more draws to get. And
he did get the double colourless. It was the second card he got from his hand. And this is one of the things that's really awkward when you're playing Golisopod Garbodor against a deck like Sylveon. You don't want to turn off abilities to hurt your own Tapu Lele, but this is what happens when you let Gardevoir have abilities. They get lots of energy on the field, and then...
Oh, wow. He's going for a Plea GX play here, so...
Wonderful.
He's trying to basically turn Nico back a turn. It means that the Celesteela is no longer a threat imminently, and it means that also the Wimpod isn't an imminent threat either, so Nico left with just 2 Trubbish on his board. It's interesting to see that against the Garbodor variant, most of the time people think that the Gardevoir GX attack is the way to go to stay out of Trashalanche Garbodor range, but Clifton's saying, you know what, I think I can just gain so much tempo with this Plea GX attack that I can really just have another turn of getting more energy onto the board into a spot where I can't lose.
And if you see, the Plea GX has worked out beautifully here. Nico's turn so far. Bench Celesteela, attach Rainbow Energy, attach Choice Band, bench Wimpod, all stuff that he had last turn and was undone by Plea GX. So now he does have the ability lock Garbodor down, which is lovely. And he's ending Clifton, although Clifton's not taken a prize yet, so they'll both still get a new hand of 6. You've got to imagine he's probably looking for the Floatstone here to turn off abilities, but he doesn't have an attacker. He can't evolve the Wimpod. He doesn't have enough energy on the Celesteela. Either of those 2 things could have been done were it not for the Plea. So I love that plea. I think it was a really good play.
Yeah, it was a pretty good tempo swing for him. It looks like Nico only drew into a Choice Band as his tool if he wants to try and establish the ability lock. He's also going to evolve into a Trashalanche Garbodor, which is actually really good for him because it is out of range of a Fairy Wind. It may force Clifton into bringing up the Gardevoir GX to start dealing damage. So the Trashalanche actually has 120 hit points, which is enough to withstand the Fairy Wind, which is really, really important. But wow, he's even got the Guzma here. So once again, he's now going to target the Garbotoxin Garbodor. He has the Floatstone to boot. He's going to manually attach to the Gardevoir, Floatstone his Tapu Lele, and simply go for the Fairy Wind here.
And I mean, this is what's so ridiculous about a deck like Gardevoir. He's got the Guzma to KO the Garbodor, and he's got the Floatstone to get something out of the active. Oh, but while I'm here, I'll just attach an extra energy just because I can.
Yeah, that's like, this is his 3rd attacker. You know, he wants the Sylveon, he doesn't mind the Sylveon getting knocked out. That's the thing he is happy to lose, and he's got these Gardevoirs built up on the bench whilst he's doing the most optimal plays he can. So he's building up his board state whilst also taking prizes, taking threats off Nico's side. Really, the Garbodor is his only out to stopping this insane flow of energy cards, and even with this Celesteela GX, Clifton is pretty much going to have an instant response just because of the amount of energy he has on board.
And that's what's important here. Nico can just go double colourless energy KO the Sylveon, but there's then going to be a combination of 5 energy on that Gardevoir / Celesteela, so either 1 energy in a Choice Band or 2 energy, and we see he's got the double colourless in hand and he's got the Choice Band, means he will immediately KO the Celesteela back. Clifton's lost his Sylveon, who really is a bit of an early game Pokemon, and it's really done its job. Celesteela is the main tech against Gardevoir that has definitely not done its job. They've got 2 prizes each, but Clifton got by far the better side of that exchange.
Yeah, it's a huge swing for him. He's evened up the prize trade now, taking away Nico's only real attacking option. We don't know how many item cards are currently in Clifton's discard pile. That's hopefully something we can work on, but it feels like at the very least he's currently out of range. 2 Gardevoir being, you know, pretty much ready to go in any situation. So what's one of the big things about the Golisopod Garbodor deck is that you're trying to Acerola and get rid of damage, but at this point, Clifton's board state is so incredible that there's not going to be any healing going on here. Nothing's taking hits at this point.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we had an interview with Michael Pramawat earlier in the game, and he was talking about Gardevoir GX and how if they don't one-hit KO me, I'll heal. Golisopod is a very similar kind of deck. And one of the things that Michael told us was, if I play a deck that can one-hit KO me, it goes very badly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Nico's facing here. And we've got a 4-energy Gardevoir in the active. Is that a 3-energy Gardevoir on the bench?
Yeah.
That's a lot of damage being done. And at this stage, as quick as Game 1 was, I think Game 2, Nico needs to be thinking about saving a bit of time for Game 3. What I will say is, with half an hour left, we look like we're actually going to get a proper 3-game series. I don't think we're going to a tie here, Joe, and that makes me delighted.
Yeah, this is still plenty more action to go in this game. One big thing for Nico was he was able to find himself a Wimpod, so if somehow he was able to tank a hit or find another Golisopod next turn, he can try and finish off this Gardevoir. But Clifton has a very simple turn. He says, you know what, double colourless, boom, 2 more prize cards. Infinite Force is literally an infinite force at this point.
And at this stage, we've got, is it 4 energy on the bench Gardevoir? So we either need a double colourless energy or an energy in a choice band, and that will get a one-hit KO on a single energy Golisopod, that's the name of it. Or energy, choice band, or 2 energy to get a one-hit KO on a 0 energy Tapu Lele. Either way, unless Clifton has absolutely nothing, he's in a great position to finish out this game. And you've got to think this is Tapu Lele for an N, unless he's already got an N and he's going for a Golisopod. Because if Clifton has energy, this game is over.
Yeah, absolutely. So looks like we are going to see the Wonder Tag, and he's actually opted to go for a Professor Sycamore here. I'm not sure if he has any Ns remaining. He's going to have one last check to see, can I actually win this game if I can't end Clifton out of this sort of hand? He's just going to have to pray that the first impression and simply that Clifton doesn't have any more energy remaining. He does have himself a Golisopod GX, so Nico could draw into some energy and actually finally take a knockout on one of these Gardevoirs, but as we've already said, Clifton has a decent hand size at this point and is not far away from dealing with this Golisopod.
And the issue is that Nico does not have ability lock on board right now.
No.
We know that Clifton's got a an Ultra Ball, which means he's going to be able to search Tapu Lele for a Sycamore. And if he doesn't hit the energy, I would be extremely surprised about that outcome. Assuming, of course, he has got both a Tapu Lele and a Professor Sycamore in his deck. Of course, the players have access to a lot more knowledge than we do. They can look through the discard pile, and as much as I really want to be able to, that'll be a bit of an invasion of their privacy.
Just a little bit. So we are going to see Clifton. He's starting to look through the resources he's burned through. He doesn't have his GX attack available to him, just 1 prize remaining. He really needs to make sure he's not out of energy here. He can't just start allowing Nico to do this sort of bouncing approach with Acerola. He can only really start going in with his Gardevoir if he can take prizes. As we've already said, he has an Ultra Ball that he can consider. Maybe he was just double checking to see if he still has Tapu Leles remaining in his deck. It looks like he's just going to go for the retreat here and go into his Gardevoir. He does have some more cards that he can potentially burn from his hand. He is now going to go for the Ultra Ball. Interesting that he opted to do the retreating first. Maybe this Ultra Ball is just a thinning card. He's going to grab himself a Remoraid, even though he's just discarded the Octillery. The other 2 cards in his hand, I believe it's a Field Blower and another Parallel City. Interestingly, he could Field Blower his own stadium and then replay the parallel the other way round. This is actually, it looks like that's what he's going to do. That's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to make it as difficult for Nico as possible. It means that now Choice Band plus double colorless plus the Guzma is not a way to win the game for Nico because he only has 2 prizes remaining. That would be enough to knock out a Tapu Lele GX. So he's doing everything here to deny the last 2 prizes for Nico. This Gardevoir very, very difficult to knock out, and this the Golisopod has so much damage on it, it's going to be forced to be Acerola, which I think is currently in Nico's hand. He does have a Rainbow Energy, which he can attach to his Buzzwell. It looks like he's going to go for the Guzma play here, and hoping that there can be some stalling, taking out some of these little 60 HP Pokemon.
Because, yeah, if Clifton doesn't get out the active, next turn, 30 to Remoraid, 30 to Routes, that will end the game,
oh
and
my
he
goodness.
doesn't!
Wow!
Double KO with Buzzwole to win game 2, and that's it!
That is crazy, the Buzzwole GX being able to get in there and sneak a win somehow for Nico. Looked like he was up against the ropes, but Clifton not holding on to his Octillery, that could have been so huge. We saw him Ultra Ball